It costs nothing to play, but I got something to say. Time for nanDEMOnai. For this nanDEMOnai, we're checking out the demo for Queen at Arms. I want to say this is probably a strategy game, but that is mostly a best guess. Could be an RPG. Could be a visual novel. Let's find out. I kind of like and kind of hate this intro font. Stand tall, men. It's an honor to walk the king's grounds. Slouchy boys and tired men snapped up right at the order. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was narration. Some of them responded out of respect, but others were afraid. The knots in my stomach jumped into my throat as I looked at the massive castle at the end of the long twisting road. I wanted to cry. Of course, I couldn't. It would be unseemly for the youngest son of the legendary knight, Sir Thomas Cordell, to be seen with tears in his eyes, even if he wasn't really a son. Harold, show your respect for Sister Commander Baron. Everyone stopped walking. The older men quickly formed a straight line, and the rest of us followed. A gruff-looking man approached from the cluster of tents and made his way down the line. I probably should put a "the" in there. One by one, he glared down his nose and asked each man to shout his name. I could feel the boy next to me quivering. He'd been collected from the town 2 days from mine. His father had come with him, and he was standing next to the boy, but there was nothing he could do right now to comfort him. It must have been painful for both of them, but I was still a little jealous of the boy next to me. I'd had to make this journey alone. My brother Nick had made the northward trek through the border 3 years ago, intending to join the Orthoran army so he could be educated at its capital. It was a common thing to do, and I'd made plans to make the journey myself when I came of age last year. But when Father got sick, I couldn't bring myself to go. We sent many letters to Nick, but never received a reply. I'm not even sure if he was aware of our father was dead. I threw some extra words in there, I'm sorry. And the King of Orthera announced that war was coming and started to round up more Silgardian men to supplement his forces. I had my chance to come to Orthera and tell my brother what happened, and to see him again, if he was even still here. Your name! As the man's dark, humorless eyes fell on me, my throat grew dry. It struck me then that if I made any sort of noise right now, it would make the tears I was holding back crack my already vaguely feminine voice. Name, boy! I opened my mouth, but I couldn't bring myself to answer him. I hated the softness in my voice already. The last thing I wanted to do was embarrass myself with making it sound prepubescent by squeaking. Go on, boy! Name! One of the soldiers beside him drew his blade, but the gruff man cast a harsh look his way that stilled his hand. My heart beat madly inside my chest. Are you stupid, boy? I swiftly shook my head. You got a tongue? I nodded. Then use it! My mouth opened again, and I forced sound to come out for fear of my life. I guess we're Marcus. Although you can change it. Enter? Okay. Marcus Cordell. I thought Assistant Commander Baron would move on after that, but when he straightened up, he continued to stare at me. He was sizing me up now, probably because I'd just caused him so much trouble. Sweat dripped down my face, and I wondered if I could get away with letting a few tears fall as well. Should I do so to show him I'm not a complete idiot? Or should I try not to attract too much attention? I could not cause any trouble. Just as my father had taught me, I avoided his gaze. It felt cowardly, but I really didn't want to be branded a troublemaker so soon. I just needed to keep my head down and do as I was told. Eventually, he moved on to the next boy. Even when he finally moved on, I couldn't relax. I wanted to become invisible. After the last new recruit reported in, Baron moved to the center of the line. Men, you are now honored members of King Kendrick's army. As such, you will conduct yourself with respect and dignity. You will be assigned to men who have been here longer than you, and know better than you ever will. You will follow their orders with efficiency and without question. You will march in single file to the cleric's tent to the east, where you will be examined and assigned to your lives for the next year. Dismissed! The experienced men turned to the east and started their march. The rest of us did our best to follow smoothly. My heart nearly bludgeoned its way through my ribcage. How thorough was this examination going to be? Would they find out that I was a girl? Would that be such a bad thing? There's the Queen at Arms! Father had always said that if anyone discovered the truth, everyone I cared about would be in serious danger, but I didn't even know why. But I needed to trust him. He may not have been my real father, but he had always made sure I was safe and loved. I had to keep my secret, if only to help honor him and his wishes. Don't let her ride, man. I would have done what the soldier said, but the cleric's tent was filled with a sharp odor that burned my nose. It was a deep smell, pungent even, almost like apples if a bunch of them had been left in the sun too long with a half-eaten fish. I wasn't the only one to notice either. A lot of the boys scrunched their noses up as we marched inside. At the front, a man dressed in robes divided us into groups and directed us to different partitions of the tent. Each one was separated from the rest by a simple curtain. I thought I might have some privacy, but there was more than one bed in each curtained area, and 2 other boys were made to sit in there with me. We waited together in silence. The 3 of us sat in terror for what felt like hours. Suddenly, the curtain slid open. We snapped to attention. The relief I felt when I saw my brother was evenly matched with the surprise that flickered on my brother's face when he saw me. I wanted to jump off the bed that second and give him a hug, but I didn't. There was no point in embarrassing the both of us. His attention was squarely on the other 2 boys in the room anyway. Take off your shirts. While Nick tended to the other boys, all I could do was notice how different he was from before. He was taller. His hair was longer. He had a long, thin scar just under his ear, and he was standing differently. Open your mouth. His voice was deeper, but its tone was too cold. The only thing that had changed about me in the 3 years was the size of my chest, which I now struggled to bind. I really shouldn't be here. After Nick attended to the boys, he had them dressed and sent them out. Then his focus turned to me. He closed the curtain tightly. The commander said we wouldn't be getting any more Soul Guardians. His voice was ripe with worry. Maybe he hadn't changed as much as I thought. I gave him a bright smile, which used to put him at ease. It didn't today. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. My smile dropped. I saw they grabbed the Olderman too. Is Father with you? I felt my stomach turn. I shook my head. I guess you didn't get any of my letters. Oh, that was me, I'm sorry. That didn't surprise me. Silgard was allied with Orthera, but over the past few years it had been almost impossible to get through the border. Everyone knew that Queen Charlotte was suspicious of Mad King Kendrick, and for good reason. Since he claimed the throne, he'd thoroughly earned that nickname. If not for the prospect of an upcoming overseas war, she probably wouldn't have let him bolster his army with any more of her men. Father took ill last year. He's passed. I see. My throat tightened. It was as if he didn't care at all. They're probably going to assign you as aide to Commander Bryce. That's where they put me when I first got here. My father's name still carries some clout, but don't sling it around too much. It's sort of a mixed bag. I nodded. Try not to get hurt. If any cleric besides me has to look at you, he'll know right away that you aren't. He stopped, and his eyes wandered down my frame. Maybe I changed more than I thought I had. I'm sorry I didn't come home. I gave him that bright smile again, and it seemed to work this time. Cleric Nicholas? Sorry, Marcus, I have to go. Don't let your guard down for a second, okay? He pulled the curtain open and paused again as his hand still gripped the fabric. He seemed to need a moment to compose himself. Perhaps he did care after all. By the time I emerged from the tent, I couldn't pick him out from the dense collection of soldiers and clerics. For the first time since I'd been taken from our village, I didn't have someone telling me what to do. I wanted to savor the freedom while I still had the chance. As I wandered the camp, I watched the other men. While some of them were sparring, others were busy with chores. Most of them were Ortheran, but it was pretty easy to spot the Soul Guardians amongst them. They clustered together in small groups, and there was an unmistakable hate behind their smiles whenever an Ortheran came by. I couldn't imagine why. Though it was true that there was a general distrust in the Soul Guard of Orthera's royalty, the normal Ortheran citizens had never caused us much trouble. Perhaps the situation was different for the Soul Guardians who actually lived here. I hope that it wasn't. Racism! The second thing I noticed was that the other soldiers were mainly men, despite what I had heard. Looking very carefully, I saw what appeared to be a female soldier here or there, but there truly were a few of them. Maybe there was some stock to the rumors that women who joined the Mad King's army were not truly welcome. They said that harassment from the men usually drove them away. Misogyny. Cool. This got a little too real. Even worse, there was no guarantee that the king would protect them, because his son, the prince, was often one of the worst instigators. The women who stayed in the army must have been incredibly bold. Much more than I could ever be. I think we're going to disprove that as we play on. Without anything better to do, I continued wandering the camp, wondering if there was something I should be doing, or someone I should talk to. In one of the groups of soldiers, there was a young Ortheran receiving a lecture from an older man, something about Panzervoy. They must have been discussing the war. I didn't really want to spy on them, but I was curious what the man had to say. Listening on their conversation? Yeah, let's learn something. What are you, daft boy? Quits is part of Panzervoy. It's not just drifting off in the ocean.
But isn't Panzervoy a kingdom like Orthera?
No, thickhead, it's the whole rock like Landria. Orthera and Silgard are part of Landria. Quits and Talmera are part of Panzervoy.
Then how can we get attacked by Iraq? Only kingdoms wage wars.
Alliances, did it teach you nothing in your lessons?
Actually, I never had lessons before I came here. I was too busy raising pigs.
Fair, even a pig farmer needs to know about the place he lives in. The man grabbed a stick from a pile of nearby kindling and started drawing in the dirt. See, we're over here. He drew a large circle with a cross through it. This is us, Orthera, and that's Silgard. And this one over here. He took a few paces and drew a square shape with another dividing line in it. Is Panzervoy. The one on top is Quince, and this one here is Talmera.
But if they're all the way over there, how are they supposed to attack us? Their radar can't swim all the way here.
Maybe they can fly. Boy, were you dropped on your head as a baby? They have boats. That's how we trade with them. A bit of water's not going to stop them. Besides, they don't have reindeer.
Wait, then what do they ride on?
Horses.
Horses?
Like reindeer, but no antlers.
I can't even imagine that.
I stared at the man's diagram. It wasn't correct at all. One of the things that my father drilled to me was the politics and geography of Landry and our nearby neighbors. He said it was crucial knowledge for any upcoming young man. If that was true, it better for the younger man to learn it correctly. Though I didn't want to seem rude. Should I correct the older man? Now we're going to keep out of it. Nah, I was already barging in on a private conversation. If I started trying to elbow in on everyone's business, I was sure to end up hated.
Hey!
Shout from behind me.
Hey, boy, where are you supposed to be?
An Ortheran soldier must have noticed me idly wandering the camp. I froze under his tense stare, unable to speak.
What, are you stupid or something?
I shook my head.
Well, then, where are you supposed to be?
I opened my mouth to speak, but the soldier seemed to find his answer without me.
You don't have a uniform yet. Do you need to go to the medical tent?
Was I not supposed to leave? I nodded, and the soldier pointed behind me.
It's that way. You shouldn't be wandering around without a uniform. Someone might think you're a spy or something.
I was pretty sure a spy would have a uniform on before they let themselves be seen, but I wasn't going to question the man's logic. I smiled appreciatively and ran back to the medical tent.
You.
Just inside the tent, I saw Assistant Commander Barrett. He looked annoyed.
Where have you been, boy? Where's your uniform?
You're going to be working with me from here on, and I expect you to be punctual and in uniform. Understand? I nodded. Good, I'll get back in your uniform, boy. He pointed, and I nodded again. Behind me stood a table laden with uniforms. I took the smallest one I could find and rushed behind a curtain to change. However, the uniform was still too big for my slender build. It was almost uncomfortably baggy. I had to roll up my pant legs and sleeves just to get around safely. The assistant commander was waiting for me just beyond the curtain. I hoped I hadn't taken too long. Looks like we'll have to have that uniform adjusted. Fix that hair and follow me. I have to bring you to the commander. I hesitated for what I swore was only a moment, but apparently it was a moment too long.
Snap to, boy. We don't have all day.
I nodded and did my best to tame my hair as I followed the strange man out. The commander's tent, as large as it was easily spotted amongst the others. It was also inordinately fancy.
Wait here, boy.
The man walked into the tent without me, and I waited for him patiently. Hopefully, if I was compliant from now on, he wouldn't think of me as troublemaker. The man didn't step back out, but he did stick out his arm. It waved me in.
Sir Thomas, you're looking awfully exuberant these days.
He pulled his mouth into such a wide smile that it looked like it was cracking his face.
That's his son, Commander.
I thought he was helping the medics this week.
His other son, sir.
Oh, I see, I see. Why, you're on the spitting image of your father. I had to question the validity of that compliment, seeing as Sir Thomas was not my father by blood. Your father and I used to be good friends. Where is he? Let's just be honest. Father's dead.
My father is dead, sir.
I could barely choke the words out. The commander's smile dropped. Oh, that's terribly unfortunate. But I wasn't gone for long. No matter, we're sure to win the war with both of his sons here.
Yes, sir.
Barry was just humoring the commander now. It was strange. Bryce was a very striking man, and he had a lot of power in his voice. But his eyes looked very lost. Perhaps it was only my imagination. I doubt he would have kept his position if he was unfit for command.
Baron, be a dear and fetch us something to drink, would you? I believe that's Cornell's job, sir.
Yes, Aide Cornell, go to the castle's kitchen and have a nice lady there give you a bottle of something good.
Aide?
That must be my new title.
Cornell doesn't have the authority to enter the castle, sir.
Then you'll need to go with him, Baron. The commander continued to smile while Baron did his best to hide his annoyance.
Yes, sir.
He saluted and exited the tent. I did the same and followed him. The assistant commander muttered to himself before turning his attention to me.
You had better follow closely. The locals don't like it when soldiers step on the castle grounds.
I nodded. I guess they're keeping the residents within the castle in case of combat.
Well, at least I know you'll keep your mouth shut.
His wide stride made quick work of the training grounds. I practically had to run to keep up. My nerves really kicked up when I entered the castle. I had to move quickly to keep up with the assistant commander, but there was part of me that was very sure I'd be suddenly stopped. Well, we're going to suddenly stop because we've already been going a little while on this, but I kind of like the, it's a really well-paced and media res start. Bit of convenience with the brother being there and everything, but I imagine it all works out. I like the style of the armor. The art style's pretty good. The frames and like all the UI stuff is really good. I love that. Like I love the cursor they use for the mouse and everything. But pretty simple visual novel. You get what you paid for, or what you expect, and looks good. Demo jumps right in. I'm guessing you get the whole first chapter if you keep going. But we're going to wrap it there just so we don't need too much time. And I'll leave it to you to check it out. Queen at Arms. I found it on itch.io, and it's linked down in the info section. Thanks for watching. Top vid's old, bottom vid's new. Everything else, pretty self-explanatory. Big button in the middle goes to my website. There's words there. Other stuff too. Check it out. Later.